Welcome to the good, the bad, and the ugly, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka 3-Piece Combo, and today I'm joined by the main man himself, Mr. Gadiel Cartagena. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. Hopefully, feeling great after this Heat game tonight, but we'll see. I've had some time to let game one sink in and move on to game two. So here we are.
Yeah, man. And before we get into game two, we just want to take one last look at game one, just kind of see what good things we can take out of that game. You know, what kind of things maybe that weren't so good that might want to be adjusted going into game two, knowing that we have the best game to game adjustment coach in Coach Spo. And then maybe something ugly that happened, something that wasn't so great. That I think we all kind of know what this is going to be for this one. But overall, man, what were your thoughts on the first game?
It's weird to say that I was impressed by the Heat, but they obviously could have played much better. I personally thought that the Bucks were going to win game one regardless, because I think that is just they needed to almost win game one. If they lose game one at home, there's so much pressure moving forward that I don't know if the Bucks could really afford to. I thought the Heat played well. Obviously, they didn't shoot well inside the three-point line. They were missing layups and whatnot, but I think there was a lot of positives that you can take away from this game and potentially moving forward, actually have it be a really, really good series. I mean, there's going to be regression on both ends between the Bucks shooting better and the Heat actually hitting layups, but I felt good about it. It was, as a basketball fan, it was an incredibly exciting game, and as a Heat fan, it wasn't a win, but there's a lot of things that they can build off of that can move forward into the series.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like you said perfectly. Just some good things, regression is going to come both ways. That's just kind of how the playoffs rolls. I want to thank our Mr. Big Banks Barai for the $4.99 dono. Look at these handsome, strapping young men. We need your handsome, strapping young ass on here too, brother. Get over here on one of these shows. Obviously, if you didn't know, Big Baller Brain was actually named after Big Banks Barai. So
this is true. I can confirm my sources.
Exactly. So we have sources in that. So like you said, man, there's going to be regression on both ends. There was a lot of gimmies just right by the layups that both Bam, Jimmy, everybody was missing. And on the other end, the Bucks just weren't hitting those 3-point shots kind of like they were most of the season. They broke the league record in threes hit in a single game against us earlier this season. Getting into some of these comments real quick, George G saying that Middleton can't shake the Dragic. That was so funny that Dragic actually locked out Middleton at that time. Goal is to get a split off.
Yes,
absolutely. If you can steal one at home, that's the absolute goal. As far as Charles said, we just need to out offense Drew, and we win. I agree. That's going to be something going forward. But getting into the game, let's take a look at some of the good stuff first, because there was a couple of good things that really surprised me in this game. I did not expect to see the level of Goron Dragic that we saw. Yeah. I felt like throughout the season, we kind of had this, maybe narrative, or maybe it was just the injuries that was coming out from him. It was, holding him back this season, but he just looked absolutely phenomenal. But, with that, is that a week rest Goron Dragic, or is that, playoff Goron Dragic? But as for the game he had, man, absolutely. I think he was 7 of 14 from the field, finished 5 of 10 from deep, finished with the most points on the team. 25 points overall. And like you were talking about actually before the show, that big 3-pointer to tie the game up in overtime. Yes. What did you see from Goron, man?
No, I thought he actually looked much quicker than he's been looking. Like, he's been trending in the right direction throughout the season, but you look at what he was able to do, and there's some certain plays where even if he was getting a screen from Bam, he wasn't really able to shake the guy behind him. He had Drew Holiday chasing him for stretches in this game, which is unbelievable to say, because, we know Drew, he's one of the best guard defenders in the NBA. But Goron was able to get downhill, and if he's able to do that, it changes this team so much. And obviously, there's still some other areas that they want to see them improve. But if Goron's 3 is falling, then people have to close out on him, and he looks quick enough to attack closeouts. Schematically, a healthy Goron, and that is kind of what we saw on Saturday, a healthy Goron is the X factor for this team, as he has been in the past. And it looks like maybe it's not going to be consistent, but he's not playing back-to-backs. Like, he gets 1 day of rest for this game, and then he gets 2 days of rest for the next game, and then I think 1 for game 4. That should be enough. He had that week off. He's been looking healthier. Goron really impressed me. I wasn't expecting it either, and he showed out for sure, and we're going to need that, especially off the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. You perfectly said, especially off the bench, because that's really where it's going to come down to as far as winning this series, because I think the starters kind of neutralize each other, right? You have the 2-time MVP Giannis who we have to kind of scheme our defense around, and then you kind of let guys like Drew and Middleton be those secondary receivers coming off of the behind Giannis. And as for Miami, you got Bam, you have Jimmy, and you have Duncan. Hopefully those are the three steady guys on the starting unit. But then off the bench, you have Tyler Herro, who's up and down, right? You don't know how much offensively you're going to get from Iguodala. You might get some tip-ins, some putbacks, or some lobs coming in from Dunk or from Dwayne Dedman. But Goron is really the primary offensive guy off the bench. You were saying?
Oh, no. Uncle Dedman. You said
Uncle Dedman. Yes, Uncle Dedman.
Got to show respect to our elders.
Yes, sir. Uncle Dedman. Sorry about that, Uncle. Hope you don't come on the barbecue and give me some spanking. But let's talk about Duncan a little bit, man, because Duncan had an absolutely phenomenal game as well. Finished 24 points, 7 of 13 from deep. He had a nice charge that he drew from Giannis, and then he was also great defensively. Look, Middleton hit that game winner. I don't think Duncan Robinson could have guarded that shot any better. How did you feel about what Duncan did?
There's nothing you can do. Like, great shot from Middleton. Tip your cap. He earned that. Like, if you're gonna hit those kind of shots, you're gonna probably move forward in the playoffs. So it is what it is. But Duncan was impressive, man. Like, I think last year against the Bucks, I don't have his exact numbers, but I don't recall him being the guy that was really splashing threes in and out, like possession after. It was more Jay Crowder, honestly. But Duncan was really impressive, and he was able to get to his spots. He was hitting some tough threes. Like, Middleton was playing great defense on him too, but Duncan was just hitting shots. Like, they were kind of going back and forth, which if Duncan and Middleton are going back and forth, then the Heat are at least in the ball game, because Middleton is one hell of a player. And if Duncan's able to hold his own, or at least just not lose that matchup by so much, then it makes a really, really big difference. But him hitting those threes, the Bucks are going to give that to the Heat all day long. That is how their defense plays. They allow the second most threes and the second highest percentage from three the entire year. They don't let you score in the paint. That was a problem for the Heat. They weren't able to. But the Heat, they can keep shooting their threes, and they can keep hitting at this clip. Maybe not 20 of 50, but you can get like a 15 for 40 or something like that. Like, there's going to be shots to be made because the Bucks just play defense that way.
And there's so much space, especially with that drop defense when Brook Lopez is out there. It was like the first 3 plays of the game, they just ran a DHO with Bam and Duncan, and every time that he would get that shot, and what was it, 9 to 12, or sorry, 9 of the first 12 points were by Duncan Robinson. Mm-hmm. If I'm correct, he was just absolutely on fire. So, hey man, if it keeps working, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Just keep going with it. I want to talk about this comment. This is an interesting one. I know Jimmy took that last shot, but do you think Duncan should have took the last shot given his quick release and how much time was left on the clock?
Yeah, with 0.5 seconds left, I don't think there's anybody else that I would trust to even get the ball off relatively accurately outside of Duncan. But the Bucks just defended it well, so I don't really know how much you can do. Like, the Bucks are one of those teams where in a situation like that, they have so many good defenders to stick to their man. Like Giannis, Drew, Khris, you have PJ Tucker. I mean, you can put pretty much anybody at center. You can have Lopez on the ball, Portis on the ball. They have the athleticism to make those quick release inbounds plays tough. So I wasn't expecting anything. Once Middleton hit the shot, it was whatever. On to game 2. Hope you can win the second one.
Yes, still more to come. It's only game 1, right? It's only game 1. Many times we have come back from a game 1 defeat. Let's talk about one more thing on this good, and I want to talk about our defense, because I really feel that is what kept us in this game on game 1. Offensively, we weren't doing the best things, but defensively, the way we were able to make Giannis inefficient, going with 10 of 27, I think he missed 17 shots. The way that we started off with Jimmy and then went to Ariza, then went to Bam. We have 3 guys that can cover all 3 of their stars in almost any particular order, because you can throw any of the 3 on Duncan, any of the 3 on Giannis, any of the 3 on Drew, and any of the 3 on Middleton. So we kind of have a good 3-headed spear defensively to lock off those top 3 guys. Talk to me about what you saw from the defense on game 1.
Oh, no, the defense was great. Like, they did a good job of mitigating Giannis, and they pretty much said they wanted other players to beat them. And the problem is the Heat couldn't capitalize on those other players not being able to beat them. The Heat themselves, squandered this game away late by just completely folding, because the Bucks were missing free throws. The Bucks were missing shots. I mean, they gave the Heat the chance to win this game, but the Heat just weren't able to capitalize. But yeah, no, I thought the defense was good. I think the Bucks are going to turn it on from 3, and that could potentially be an issue. But I think the defense was solid. So I really can't complain about that. If the game plan is good, and I think Spo's defense is one that will get better throughout the series, whereas I can't say the same about Budenholzer potentially making those types of adjustments to improve his team throughout the series. So we'll see. Maybe he does this year, but looking at the past, Mike Budenholzer has not been that kind of guy.
I think the best thing that we can take away from this loss is Mike Budenholzer is going to go thinking that he actually succeeded last game, and he's not going to make the proper adjustments, right?
Because I think he did though. Like they just missed shots, but they could have won that game by a lot more. Like the Heat were bad offensively, and I mean, listen, the Bucks, they probably have, especially when Bam isn't playing well, they probably have more talent. But I think coaching is going to be a huge factor in this series. So we'll see. If Spo's really able to impose his will on Budenholzer, then that makes a difference. But if not, it's going to be an uphill battle.
For sure. You know, it's like you said, they're technically more talented. They have more talent. They're more top heavy than us. But when it comes to being a complete team, coach, you know, everything through and through, I feel like we have the advantage there. Anything else on the good side that you want to touch on before we get on to some of the negatives of this game?
Happy with the way they shot. I thought it was, I mean, Duncan and Goron, right? Like those are the two guys. If they show up, this team has a much better chance of winning. I would like to see Nunn get more involved a little bit offensively. I would like to see him be more of a pull-up mid-range guy as opposed to just he was just taking threes, honestly. It felt like he was settling a lot. I would like to see him. He's athletic enough to get to the rim and try to make some things happen there. So at least early on in the game, I'd like to see Nunn be a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, I thought Duncan and Goron, like, huge difference. If they're able to combine they don't need 50 like they had last game, but if they're able to combine for 40 or even 35, I think that's a win for the Heat.
Yeah, I think that's a potential there. I think Nunn has the ability to have that bounce back game. Me and Royal actually talked about this in the first episode, that Nunn has probably been top 3 or 4 most consistent guy on the team this season.
For sure.
And for him to kind of have a slightly below average game in game 1, look for him to have a slightly above average game in game 2. And that's something that we could look out for as far as things to regress or progress into this next game. Let's get into some of the bad stuff, because we did a lot of good things, but there were some things that I really didn't like that we did. And I want to start off with a lack of execution down the stretch. I felt like too many times we settled for a shot that we could have taken with 15 seconds left, or 15 seconds less left on the shot clock. We were just settling for threes. We weren't getting into our looks. The ball was sticking. This team works best when the ball is moving well. So when the ball is just sticking in one person's hands, nobody's moving around him, trying to create offense around that guy, that's when this team is just not at its best. And we saw that all throughout the end of the fourth quarter and the beginning of into overtime, right? Because although the Bucks were losing, we're slightly ahead in that game and kind of, missing free throws, they were giving us every single opportunity to win that game. Yeah. And we did not take advantage of it. How did you feel like our execution lacked down the stretch of last game?
It was painful. And I think the reason why we struggled to execute is, honestly, by the end of that game, the Heat looked scared of Brook Lopez. Like, they did not want to go at Brook Lopez. He's a great paint defender. Like, credit to him, he does a great job of just standing straight up and being a big dude in the paint. And that is something that the Heat have struggled with throughout the years, or at least throughout the last 2 years with Jimmy. They struggle against those guys that can really just lock down the paint, because, I mean, Jimmy and Bam, the majority of their points come from the paint. So that was obviously an issue, and I think they were just comfortable with settling, and the Bucks were giving them that. But there was multiple plays where Jimmy should have been able to get downhill and trust himself to try to get either a foul or a good shot attempt at the rim against Brook. He wasn't able to do it. He was settling for threes. Bam wasn't even able to look at the rim. There were some very painful times in overtime where Bam caught the ball, and Brook is just, I mean, it could have been a defensive 3 seconds, but
yeah, defensive 10 seconds. Like,
but still, like, if Bam's, I'm not going to get mad at that. If Bam's not even going to try to make it look like he's looking at the rim, like, all I want him to do is just turn and look at the basket to make Brook engage, because Brook is just playing safety back there, and he can just stop everybody at the rim. And if Brook's standing there, no one's going to go to the rim. I mean, the only guys that are confident enough to do so on this team are Goron, Jimmy, sometimes Nunn, and Bam on and off. No one else is going at the rim. This is a jump shooting team. They did not execute their jump shots down the stretch, and that was a big issue. So it was painful. We'll see what happens in late game tonight. Hopefully they're able to get Brook moving a little bit more. What I suggested on the shoot around, which should be up at some point, is getting Bam some more baseline looks, where he's been most effective, I think, this year, when he's got an isolation on the baseline, and he can, for some reason, he's just good in those areas. So I would like to see him try to get Brook moving his feet. And that's one thing you can do late game. That's how the Heat beat the Bucks, or not the Bucks. The Heat beat the Nets earlier this year with Jeff Green. It was just Bam isoing that left side, and he had 41 against the Nets the same way. Obviously, the Bucks are way better defensively than the Nets, but the same principle applies. Bam is good in isolation when he's closer to the rim, so I would like to see them try to go back to that late game if need be, because Bam is honestly our best isolation guy, which is crazy.
Think so?
I'm statistically speaking, throughout this year, he's been the best isolation guy.
Fair. I think he has the ability to take advantage of his matchup a lot better. We talked about this all post game, right? If a guy is bigger than him and is able to body him up, he has a speed advantage. And if anybody has the speed to keep up with him, 9 times out of 10, he has a strength advantage. So I can see him winning almost every single matchup. And just a quick question: how much do you think UD has the impact of Bam having that baseline game? Because you know that UD's baseline game was
that's UD's stuff. But no, I don't know if it comes from that. I watched Bam play at the Miami Pro League about 2 years ago, and he was just facing up from everywhere. Like, he's really comfortable doing that. I know he's playing against like semi-pro or whatever, but it's just something that when you watch a player pick up basketball, like, they're comfortable with doing that. Mm-hmm. He's comfortable with that face-up game. And that is something that he doesn't do much of. It's more of probing on the elbow, waiting for other shooters to get open, which is fine. But he needs to start looking at the rim, face up, and make Brook react to him, because he's reacting to Brook and just not taking it to him. It's a really, really big issue. He needs to become aggressive. It doesn't need to be straight up, like, look at the rim and take whatever shot they give you. But, I mean, move him around a little bit, move yourself around Bam, and be able to go attack Brook while he's moving. Because if he's stationary, Bam's really not going to score.
Exactly. And if he's ready to take that initial contact when Bam's ready to drive the rim, Bam struggles a little bit against those taller type center, especially when they're under the rim, right? And to your point about him playing safety, if you look at it, if you look at the way it's actually happening, Bam is looking around. And as Bam is looking around, Brook is helping out where Bam is looking to.
Exactly.
So instead of looking around, look at the rim, make him think you're going to go to the rim. Those passing lanes are going to be wide open now. Even if you're not taking the shot, those passing lanes are going to be open. So lots of different things they can do today. I think that's probably going to be the number one difference maker in this game, is if Bam's able to at least just make Brook Lopez think that he's shooting it. He doesn't have to shoot every time. Just make it think that he's shooting it.
That's make him move. Like, Brook, he's a really good paint defender, but there's a reason he's not switching. He can't move that well. But if you're going to let him not move, then you're playing into what the Bucks want to do. You have to get him moving his feet. Like, once he's moving his feet, once any big is moving their feet, Bam has the advantage. But he doesn't force bigs to move their feet. That is the biggest issue. He's comfortable with letting them stand there. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's like seeing somebody know you can do something. It's like putting Bam with a bunch of 5-year-olds and having him take fadeaway threes every single time.
Right? Well, I wouldn't compare Brook to a 5-year-old, because that boy can play defense.
Well, once he starts moving his feet, he's wobbling like a 5-year-old.
Okay. I can't argue with that. Brook is he's not very switchable. That's for sure.
So, I mean, at that point, it's like, you have the ability to take this guy off the dribble. Just go ahead and do it. We're not going to harp on this too much. We still have yet to see anything else as far as bad. Actually, there's one more thing I do want to touch on, man. Tyler Herro gave us nothing.
Yeah.
He gave us nothing off the bench. And on top of that, every time he was shooting, it was a shot that was not our team wasn't ready for, and it would cause the Bucks to go downhill and get a kind of like a fast break type shot, right? What were your thoughts on Herro, man?
He's not letting the game come to him. It's a lot of forcing it, trying to be the superhero or trying to be that microwave guy off the bench. Let the game come to you. Like, you are not good enough at creating to try to take almost any of the defenders on Milwaukee off the dribble. Like, they are a really good defensive team. They have really good individual defenders. He's not able to do that. He just needs to slow the game down, take easy, higher percentage shots, because he still doesn't really take any great shots to begin with. But take what the defense gives you. If they're giving you a pull-up mid-range, take that. You don't need to take a pull-up three. It's not necessary. It's like 27% to 45%. It's not even close. Take the 2 points. You don't need to be Duncan. You don't need to be anybody. Just take the shots that are easy, because there's a lot of forcing it. And like you said, those shots where he takes ill-advised early shot clock shots, the Bucks get in transition, and we are not stopping the Bucks in transition.
Never.
Like, Giannis is just freaky. We're not stopping them. So Herro needs to play composed, slow it down. It looked like the game was too fast for him last game, which is weird because he played against not the same exact team, but a relatively similar team in a higher stakes series in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and he was able to play well against them. So I'm not sure exactly what it was, but he didn't look 100% mentally there. It looked like he was just trying to do too much. If he's able to slow it down a little bit, I think he'll be fine. I'm just not expecting much from him anyways at this point. But like if we're able to get like 14 or 15 from him, I think that's a win off the bench, given that other players should be able to step up as well.
Exactly. If you can get that from him and just get 75% of the Goron we got last game, our bench is going to absolutely maul the Bucks bench. So that's all that we need from him. And there's a couple people in the comments saying, trade Herro, his stock is dead. You don't trade when somebody's value is absolute zero. You don't. If you
can't trade during the playoffs, so.
Oh, exactly. That too, right? But if you were to sell on yesterday's crypto market, you would have been down like 50%. Today, the market's back up. Hey, better things happen. Better things in the future. Yahado. Hold on for dear life. Hopefully that thing goes back up. Anything else on the bad before we get on to the ugly?
No, I think Herro was the last thing I really wanted to touch on. Like, I don't think anybody else played poorly. It was just, we can get to the ugly. I think we're going to talk about something in the ugly, but Herro definitely was part of the bad.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, nothing really too much other than that. Like I said, defensively, phenomenal. Everything we did defensively was phenomenal. Got great lift from guys from like Goron, like Duncan. Those guys were doing great things. Jimmy and Bam were a stud defensively. Just need a little tweaks on offense, and I think that's kind of, the main thing is just tweak the offense a little bit. Defense is fine, right? Coach Bo had a great defensive plan. Offense is kind of the issue. Let's get into the ugly, man, because let's give him his props, actually. Because you know what? He deserves his props. Milwaukee, they don't have too much. I don't think the last time they won a championship was, 50 years ago? When was the last time Milwaukee won a championship?
I was not alive.
Yeah, so both of us were in our respective father's testicles at the time. Milwaukee has been irrelevant forever. So let's give him his props. Khris Middleton, congratulations on hitting the shot. I
love Khris Middleton. If I can say, I think Khris Middleton's game is heavily underrated, and he's been a really good player he's gotten better every single year. The problem is the Bucks need him to be the guy down the stretch of a lot of games. And I don't know if that's his exact role on a championship team, but he can play. Like, Middleton is heavily slept on. He's a 3-level scorer, and he can do a lot. I like Khris Middleton a lot.
Yeah, I like his game. Name redacted said 1979. So I think that's pretty funny. As far as Khris Middleton goes, his game is great. He's definitely good as far as what he does. I just don't like his attitude, man. He's a little bitch.
Really? Yeah. You don't like Middleton? Like, I have no problem with Khris Middleton, honestly. Like, he just goes about his business. I can't lie.
No, bro. He tries to draw fouls. He flops too much. You remember last year?
That's anybody in the NBA, though. Like,
no, because look, Jimmy got clobbered by Brook Lopez, and he could have sold that like a flagrant foul, but he did not. How many times did Jimmy get clobbered yesterday and got up faster than Khris Middleton getting forearmed by a skinny white guy in Duncan Robinson?
I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm someone that wants the Heat to get Lowry, and Lowry does that more so than anybody. So, like, at this point, if they flop, like LeBron flops, everybody flops. It's whatever. Like, I'm not gonna take the Middleton slander if I'm being completely honest. I'm not a Bucks fan or anything, but Middleton, that's my guy, low key. Like, if there's one player that I really like on the Bucks, there's two technically. It's Middleton and Drew. But I would definitely appreciate it if there wasn't any flopping going on. But there's flopping on both sides. Like, that's just what we do. That's the NBA.
There's flopping everywhere, but I feel like Middleton has a little bit extra, and it's the same reason that I actually never liked Kyle Lowry. I still would.
Yeah, Lowry's a pain to watch. If he's not on your team, it's brutal. Like, he's just hunting for fouls, but it works, and he's turned into a winning player. So
fair.
Anyways,
let's get back to the ugly.
Yes,
that Khris Middleton shot, right? After Jimmy Butler comes down, ties the game in the regulation at the buzzer, which was crazy. I thought he was going to pull it for 3, but he ended up taking it to the rim, getting that finish. Khris Middleton hit a crazy shot over Duncan Robinson to get that win, giving them the 1-0 lead, right? Giving them the 1-0 lead. What was your thoughts on that? And was that your ugly as well?
Like, credit where it's due. Middleton just hit a great shot. Like, I was really happy with the way that we defended him on that sequence, and he hit it. Like, that's great. Players hit great shots like that. So credit to Middleton. I was happy with the way we played defense. So it hurt obviously because I want the Heat to win, but at the same time, it's whatever. I thought the ugly actually was the settling we kind of touched on a little bit, but I think settling down the stretch
Yeah.
and like these pull-up threes, and it was Jimmy was doing them too, which was the most frustrating part because he's the guy that doesn't do those kinds of things. Jimmy just taking pull-up threes when the paint or the mid-range would be open really sucked. And I think it just made like the Bucks, you have to try to make them play defense because they're a really good defensive team as they stand, but you can't just play into what you want them to do. And we were settling a lot for threes. I'm fine when Duncan does it. I'm fine when Goron does it. I'm fine when Herro does it. I'm honestly somewhat fine when none does it. But Jimmy, you are the guy who gets to the rim. So it would be much appreciated if he doesn't take those jumpers in late game. Just get to the middle of the floor, operate in the paint the way you always do. If you have to go over Brook Lopez, you got to do it. You're a superstar in this league. That is what you have to do. I think the ugly for me was Jimmy's. Some of the late game execution, not solely on Jimmy, but the late game execution for this team was brutal to watch.
Yeah, man. There were better shots to be had there. Like you said, Jimmy is our rim pressure, right? He's pretty much the only guy that generates rim pressure. So actually, to this comment, how concerning is it that we made 23s and still lost? Honestly, it's not as concerning as I would be if I didn't see how many shots they missed up close. I feel like a lot of the things they missed in the paint would have, maybe neutralized if we would have made 4 or 5 less threes. So I'm not as concerned with that. The most concern I have going from game 1 to game 2 would be, can Goron keep up what he did? Right? That's probably my main concern. And let's cap off the video this way. What do you feel like the biggest question mark going into game 2 will be?
It sounds crazy to say, but how do you score 2-pointers? Because the Bucks are going to give you threes, but the Heat shot 6 of 16 at the rim, like in the restricted area. That is layups. You cannot go 6 of 16 from there. If you're just able to convert shots at the rim, like I was looking at the numbers with Ariel before this, of all the teams that played this past weekend, we took the lowest amount of shots at the rim and we hit the lowest amount of shots. We hit 37% at the rim. The next lowest in game 1 of the NBA playoffs from these last stretch of games was 57%. So the Heat, you just can't be that bad at the rim. That's partially due to Brook Lopez, but Bam, Jimmy, everybody, they have to finish better. If they're able to hit layups, then that will mitigate some of the regression that the Bucks have coming from 3, and then the Heat are going to be in the series. Like I think this is a very evenly matched series. Obviously, the Bucks took game 1. It's going to be crucial for the Heat to get game 2 because I think I'm confident in the Heat winning at home, but then again, the pressure's on the Heat, and that makes things very interesting. We haven't seen that too many times. We didn't see that much last year. Like the pressure was always on the other team early on. Like we were winning early in the series. So the Heat need to get this split and move forward. But I think if you're able to hit your layups and score in the paint, it'll make a huge difference. We had like 24 paint points, which
it was pathetic.
That's horrible. That can't happen.
Big Banks Mariah, go ahead and say Bucks in 5. So, and then we have name redacted. I appreciate all the Bucks guys, by the way.
Back this ratio in 5. I love that. I love that energy. That's beautiful.
Hey, Robbie Patel there. I was actually going to say I do appreciate all the Bucks fans in here because it's the first time having an opposing team in the chat. I think I
love it. Listen,
it's phenomenal. Bring that perspective over here, baby. Bring that perspective.
Bucks are a good team. The Heat are a good team. We'll see who ends up winning the series. The Bucks got game 1. We'll see what happens. I'm still riding with my guys.
100%. But I do think if the Bucks make it out of this series, I think they have what it takes to beat Brooklyn. I do feel like they can beat Brooklyn.
Because Brooklyn doesn't have anybody to guard Giannis.
Exactly.
But we're not going to talk about that because it's Heat in 6.
It's Heat in 6, baby. Any closing thoughts before we finish up here, man?
Heat need to win tonight. 2-0, that the Bucks are going to play free if they're up 2-0. And I do not want to see them play freely because Giannis playing freely is a whole different type of animal. Like he's scary, but if you put the pressure on, slow the game down a little bit, the series becomes different. If the Heat win tonight, it's going to be one hell of a series, and I'm very excited to see what happens.
I am too, man. And like you said, we're much more evenly matched than I felt like a lot of teams gave us credit for. And the way that we were able to throw Giannis off of his game by switching multiple defenders onto him, there's a lot of things we can do, and there's lots of different changes coming up into this game too. As always, we got people in the comments going off Tyler in 3, Heat in 6, Heat in 5, Heat versus Heat in the finals. Let's go. We're the only team that can beat us is ourselves. And with that thought, we're going to finish off there. Thank you guys so much for checking out The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I appreciate you, my friend Gadiel, for coming in, hopping on the show, joining us for the second live edition of The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. We'll probably have you on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly after game 2 coming in. That's going to be tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and do that tomorrow. But that's all for now, guys. I appreciate you checking out the video. I hope you guys enjoy the game, and you guys have a good day.